Okay, we are live on Facebook.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Rita. Thank you, Oxford Bookstore and RPG. Welcome us for this conversation tonight. Erik, it's really an honor to welcome you at this book launch.
I have a problem.
You have
If you could speak a little louder.
Okay. So it's really an honor to invite you, Erik Orsenna, at this book launch of your biography of Pasteur, Life, Death and Life, translated into Tamil by Dr. Vengada Soupraya Nayagar and published by Amutharasan Paulraj. For this conversation with you, we have invited Jaya Bhattacharji Rose, who is literary critic and co-founder at ACE Literacy Agency, and Dr. Srinivas Kaveri, immunologist and director of the CNRS in Delhi. Welcome to all of you. Before starting, I would like to precise that Erik Orsenna is not only an academician, but a tireless storyteller, explorer, navigator, geographer, and also economist who has studied philosophy. Erik has an obsession to understand everything. He's an eternal student. Erik is a lover of life. He is a bulimic of knowledge. See, in 60 years, 60 books. He wrote his first book at 8. Then he promises to write a novel every 10 years. And these last 5 years, he wrote a series of essays, Petit précis de la mondialisation, and of course, biographies, Pasteur, Beaumarchais, Beethoven, and tonight this is Pasteur. Recently, he wrote Cochon, Voyage au pays du vivant. The title of his books are always a surprise and a discovery. He is also the ambassador of the World Institute's Pasteur Network and president of Initiative for the Future of Great Rivers. If you meet him only once in your life, believe me, you receive a boost of optimism for the rest of your life. Thank you, Erik Orsenna, for joining us. Thank you, all the panelists. And I would like to invite the publisher, Amutharasan, to come on stage and say a few words about this publishing.
Thanks, Christine. Anevarukkum vanakkam. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Erik Orsenna for his book on Louis Pasteur. Second, I would like to thank French Institute, the whole team, for providing all the support to bring out in Tamil language. And third, to Professor Vengada Subraya Nayagar, who made this wonderful translation. So this is the copy of that one. And finally, I thank all the friends who motivated for us to do this book. Thank you. I would like to tell a few words about why we have chosen this book for Tamil translation. So I could able to bring out 3 pointers on that. So the first one is, this book portrays Louis Pasteur in various perspectives, particularly on a more interesting way. Usually a biography will be little boring, right? But this book is very, very interesting. Every page is very, very interesting. And second thing is about Louis Pasteur's concern toward the society and his commitment to find out solution for all the problems, whatever things he is coming across. And third thing is, this book not only talks about Louis Pasteur, but also about everybody or everything related to him. Example is like the microscope. It also contains a history of microscope as well. So these are the three things that impressed us, and this made us to bring out a wonderful book in Tamil language. And Professor Nayagar has been wonderfully translated this well, and everybody is enjoying this work. Once again, I would like to give my sincere thanks to everyone. On September 26th, in our newspaper, this is Tamil newspaper, The Hindu Tamil. So we had nearly a half-page coverage, more detail about this work. I would like to thank them also. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Christy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amutharasan. Thank you for showing us the first page of a Tamil newspaper. It's really great to know that there is an article about the book about Erik Orsenna. So may I request to Jaya to ask the first question to Erik Orsenna.
Well, good evening. It's such an honor and a pleasure, sir, to be in conversation with you. I have a lot of questions, as we've discussed, but the first one is, since, as Christine has pointed out, you are a man and a gentleman of so many accomplishments, how do you define yourself? Do you define yourself as a scholar, politician, environmentalist, thinker, businessman, or writer? Because that would also, also link up to, why did you choose to write a biography of Pasteur, apart from being an ambassador of the Institute? Because there's so many things, so many interests of yours dovetailing into this one book. Please tell us more. I would be fascinated to hear.
Thank you, and thank you to you all. I'm very much honored to be with you and to be published by you. I know only the northern part of India. I went to Bombay, I went to Rajasthan, I went to Calcutta, but not to the south. So I have to go to the south now. I prepared to go there, but we had that sort of pandemic of COVID, so I have to postpone my visit. But we have prepared with Christine some travel in the end of last year. We hope it will be possible, and to spend a lot of time with you. Because who I am, I don't care. I don't care. I'm not interested in myself. I'm very interested in other people, in questions, and from my very childhood to know how it works. That is the point, how it works, and who I could meet to find the answer to the question how it works. So now I have a sort of network all over the world, able to answer this sort of question. But scholar, I don't know. I refused 5 times to become a minister because I want to be free. I think I'm a free man, I'm a sailor, and I try to be on the earth as I was sailing. I mean, the sailing way of life is the best way, because you have to be humble and then to be quite determined to go to the goal, but without to pay attention to glory and to pay attention to the team, to the equipage. You see, because otherwise in the boat, the value of the boat is the value of the weakest in the boat. So that is why I consider myself always as if I was sailing, even if when I am walking on the earth. And the point is, as I want to understand what is at stake with the real world, I have many books like a fisherman. When he wants to get some big fish, it takes different tool than when he wants to get some shrimp. You see, you have a net on that time. Otherwise, you have a big road, and that's not the same. So when I want to try to understand a little bit about love, I try to write a novel because I don't understand nothing about love. Perhaps when I come back to India, you help me to understand something to love. Perhaps Jaya, for instance. Jaya, for instance, I don't know. And you see, and so that's the reason why. That's the reason why sometimes I'm writing a biography to gather some secrets from life of huge people. Sometimes it's a sort of tale for the youngsters. Sometimes it's sort of travel as a sort of a journalist. You see, the point is, you see, you have the papers have less and less money, so they can't send people for 2 or 3 years, and my publisher can send me for 2 or 3 years because I'm happy enough to see my book being sold. So you see, I'm not rich, but I spend a lot of money in order to travel. But nowadays, of course, I am just down in my room and trying to write and to speak with my new friend or my new potential friend, and to see this smiling look of my professor, Mr. Sriri. I'm sure, because I'm completely ignorant in biography. So please be indulgent for me, because I am ignorant, but I try, I swear I try to learn something about biology.
No, well, thank you. With Srini, 1 minute. I know, thank you very much, because that the crux of that response was that you love to be free. I love that spirit. I love that sense of journey. I love the way it leaves you open and receptive to new ideas. And I sincerely hope that one day your body of work will be available even in English, so that many others can also access it.
That's the point. And sorry for my English. I used to speak quite a good English because I spent 4 years in London School of Economics, but it was long time ago. So I need practice. And
you're very good.
The way it's impossible to go to London now. So I would much prefer to go to your country and then to practice.
You're welcome. You're welcome any day. Over to you, Srini, for the next question.
Thank you.
Over to you, Srini.
Thank you. And the point is to be free. I remember I was asking by President of the Republic, Nicolas Sarkozy, and he told me, I offer you the position of Ministry for Cultural Affairs. And I said, no. I said, why? Could you imagine that 200 people would be like to be seated in the place where we are now with that sort of question? And I said, I prefer to be free. And the president told me, I never saw such a free man.
Yeah. Well, that's quite an honor. And I'm so glad you did, because you now can continue to write for us. Now over to you, Srini. Over to you.
Yes, Srini.
Okay. Bonjour, Monsieur Erik Orsenna. It's a real pleasure and an honor to share this platform with you. Let me start asking my first question about your title, the intriguing title of your book. Although death signifies the end of life, it's still a part of life. It may be the last part of life. Death is the last part of life. And Louis Pasteur points out the importance of life and death of several living creatures in many scientific ways. And you say, le domaine de la vie est bien plus large qu'on ne croyait. If I may translate it roughly, it is the field or the subject of life is much vaster than we thought. So you have your own views on the intricate relationship between life and death. So could you please elaborate a little bit on the title of your book, life, en français c'est la vie, la mort, la vie, life, death and life. Please tell us a little bit more about the title.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Professor. The point is, I could quote a sentence of our philosopher Montaigne, and he told us, we are not dying because we are sick, we are dying because we're living. And we have a lot of people now to earn a lot of money who declare a war to death. And they think it's possible to kill the death. And to kill the death is to kill the life. I mean, it's exactly because you are frail, then you can live. And because you are part of a cycle, then that you are a living man, a living being. That is my sort of very deep conviction for that. Very deep conviction for that. So this is the first part of my answer. The other part is, in his life, Pasteur had a lot of problem of relationships with people. And he had a lot of difficulty to express his love for people. Of course, he has sort of respect for people, but to express his feeling, that was very difficult for him, except for his children. And he has a lot of children, and among these children, he has 2 daughters, and he loved these 2 daughters. And these 2 daughters died from illness. And this was one of the reasons he gave so energy to fight against the diseases. And these 2 deaths destroy him. That's the point. And then after this destruction of Pasteur, he tried to research a new Pasteur, and in order to win the battle against the life, but not against the death, but not against the death, against the diseases. So you see, you have a mix between the two, and I'm very interested in other civilizations that our modern Western civilization, with market, of course, a lot to earn money, where the death is completely fired out, as if it was possible. And we see exactly the problem with the pandemic, which is the point. So we don't know any death. We don't know, we don't want any death. And we forget, and we forgot now, that from the mosquitoes, we have each year more than 800,000 people dying from diseases brought by a mosquito. But we don't give it a damn because they are people from a poor country. And this is the point. What is an emerging disease? It's a disease beginning to kill some people in a rich country. Don't forget that, never, never. And you have other diseases like drepanocytosis. We hit only Black people, and no one give a damn of interest of these diseases because it don't kill President Trump,
yeah.
For instance.
Yes, thank you very much for this deep insight into life and death, and how you look at the difficulties of the poor people and of the poorer countries. It's extremely eye-opener to listen to your thoughts.
The point is, I am ambassador not only of the French Institute Pasteur, yes, but of all that network of the Institute in 26 countries, because one of the fantastic originality of Pasteur was to see that to launch the beginning of this new conception, we have only one health.
Yes. Only
one health. You could not have being in good health in only one country. If you had bad health of environment, of vegetal, of animal, how could you imagine you could be only France, having a good health only in France. Of course not. A lot of people want to be independent, but life is the country of interdependencies. This is I mean, if I had a sort of believing, one belief, that would be this one.
Thank you, Erik. Maybe Jaya, you want to ask one more question?
Yeah. It's very interesting that you talk about the intertwining and the interdisciplinary approaches, and the fact that the title of your biography is so uniquely named, because it actually raises another very significant fact of literature and conversations which are coming to the fore today, thanks to the pandemic. And I don't know why they actually went away in the first place. And that is this whole idea and notion of the culture of death, dying, rituals, mortality, etc. There is something what I like to refer to as the Adonis myth, where because we have been so successful for so many generations and we have been surviving, we tend to think that it's a misconception that we as humans are immortal and youth is forever with us. Whereas that I think stems from the fact that we are becoming more and more insular and looking only at the microcosm. Whereas what I really appreciate with you and your raising these issues is this whole notion of interdisciplinary approaches, the whole idea of bringing in learnings from other societies, communities, studies, academics. And this brings me to the very next question, which I wish to address to you, because this is a thread which I often see in your interviews and conversations, is what is it that fascinates you about the Victorian period? Because I see you sort of harking back to it and bringing it into your literature and creations of today. It's as if, do you think we are living in a sort of a modern version of the Victorian age where interdisciplinary studies are becoming fashionable again? What do you think? I would love to hear your thoughts on this.
So you ask many questions.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Very interesting question. Very interesting question. I have to come back and to spend a lot of time with you because it's so interesting. No, I have to come back. Please, Christine, we organize something. We organize something. We have to come back.
Yeah,
okay. First, Pasteur was not a physician. He was not a physician. He was a man who was specialist in physics and in chemistry first. And a lot of physicians say, well, il n'a rien à faire avec la médecine, he's not a physician, first. Then Pasteur is not a man who discovered. In fact, he gathered a lot of knowledge, and having gathered all this knowledge, he discovered. He discovered when cruising, if I can say so, the look and the approaches. You see? Donc, he was never the first. For instance, for the vaccine, Jenner was first.
Yeah.
And Pasteur not. And he never said I am the first. Of course not. So this is my believing clear. And my first education was economics in London School of Economics. And this part of my life, intellectual life, was, I should say, very poor. Because at that time, economics wanted to be recognized as a real science, like physics or mathematics. So we built a lot of models which were used only in finance in order to make smoke on real phenomenon. And we thrown away from economics all the human sciences, like sociology, like history, like geography. And now all these science, social science, come back to economy.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
much more interesting. Like
Exactly.
this is
Yeah,
Duflo,
exactly.
you see. And you see, so, and in Bangladesh, in order to see what's going on, and to see what is to be poor. What is to be poor? This is a question. It's more important to know how could we thrown away from that situation. It's more interesting that to discuss about the equilibrium of the market. You see? So this is the first point. Then why this sort of age? Between the war, just before the war of 1418. At that time, we had a sort of fantastic optimism. And all the knowledge were talking together. And it's the same in the art fields, over music, literature, poetry, paintings. So they were talking together. They were going away from their home and talking in order to explain and to express, explain and express. And then we had this war, this stupid war of 1418. It was a suicide for Europe and suicide for the knowledge, because from this war we had the inverse of this Victorian age, that is to say barbarity, that is to say Nazism and racism and all that sort of dirty things, of course. So you see, like if the human being were a sort of afraid to have this possibility of happiness, and they try the other way. So
exactly,
I'm very interesting because the book, the novel, which received the Goncourt Prize, is exactly on that period. And when I'm trying to deal with the difficulties of a great river, like Ganga, that Brahmaputra, la Mekong, we have to cross the knowledge. And for instance, you can't explain what is going on with the river if you have no one in your team knowing something of the history of religion. Of course not. It's not a field of only engineers. We need engineers, but the engineers talk the story of one tiny part of the real world. You see, and I can check that each day of my life working on the river problem and the scarcity of water. And we will be unable to deal with this growing scarcity of water if we don't gather all the knowledge. And that is why water is so important, because water is life, but water is death. And water is a fantastic mirror of our societies. Tell me how you produce water, how you give water, and to whom you give water at each price, and that tell you exactly and precisely in what sort of society you are.
Exactly. No, I'm so glad you said that, because there are so many ways in which actually knowledge gets passed on from generation to generation. And this excessive emphasis that recent disciplines have shown of relying only as the beginning of contemporary knowledge as being the World War I and World War II, and then seeing everything else before as if it was prehistoric, though we recognize its due in stages, is something which has to be reformed and has to be recognized in collaboration, or in tandem rather, with the knowledge systems which are enshrined by different groups of faith and religion and other knowledge systems, not necessarily those that exist in the mainstream or in institutions. There is a lot of knowledge which we seem to be ignoring and leaving by the wayside. And I think what you are, I mean, this is exactly why I was so fascinated by the title of your biography. and I wish one day I will be able to access it in English, is because I exactly this. I suspected your emphasis of pulling everything together, and I hope, and I second that thought that maybe one day you and I can sit and have a longer conversation on this. But over to you.
Of course. I come to see you, or you come to see us. You come to see us because you have to give that sort of language to our people. Could you imagine 5 years ago, we had to face a reform of our studies, giving based on the point that when you are a mathematician, a young mathematician, listen to me, you don't need to know anything about history. Could you imagine that? What sort of people we would have built with that sort of stupid thing? Could you imagine?
Yeah.
Only mathematics, nothing. And this is exactly why you have on one part of the society sort of a savant, of people, of scientists, and the other part, people against the knowledge, So that is the point. That is the point. You have a split between that sort of elite, stupid elite, during, with a sort of scientist, and now you have ignorant. So you have a split between the two, and you have a sort of people against the knowledge, which is the worst. For instance, in medicine and in vaccine. Could you imagine that in France, if we found a vaccine against COVID, the figures are the following: 44% of the people in France would refuse to be vaccinated. Could you imagine that? In the country of Pasteur? In the country of Pasteur?
Yeah.
So this is one. I was this morning discussing with the people in two ministries gathered, and we talk about that. And what would be the main battle in the following years? The first one is to restore the confidence in knowledge.
Exactly. Thank you so much. I mean, thank you. This is a conversation which can carry on, but over to you, Srini, for the next one.
No, let's talk together, and with the other, that will be another time.
Yeah, okay. Christine will organize it.
Really, you have to come to France. You have to come to France. Everyone, you have to come to France. Please come. Come to Brittany. I have a large house. We could discuss a little bit, and we could sail a little bit just around the island. And
lovely idea.
Very good fish. Not only pigs. I swear, not only pigs.
We'll take you up on it.
Very good fish.
Srini, would you like to take?
I would like to come back to your book, if you allow me. I want you to come back to your book now.
Yes. No, my book is not so important.
It is important.
No, it's not so important. I'm sorry for the publisher, but the book are not so important. The point is friendship. So in this talk, in this meeting, we have to launch something.
Exactly. See, yeah, when I was reading this book, I mean, I felt it as if I was reading a thriller, You are a great storyteller. It was like a thriller. And curiously, the research work of a scientist is often called as investigation. Yeah. And the scientists themselves are called investigators.
Of course.
And you refer to Louis Pasteur as a commissaire Maigret, which fascinates many French people. And so my question, very simple, down to earth question is, you have this little passion, hidden passion for thrillers. When do you give us some thrillers?
No, the point is, I used to be 25 years a sort of a judge, because I was member of the Council of State, but I was much more fascinating by the lawyer and I should say fascinating for the killers. You see, I'm very interested by the killer. And the point is, Pasteur was the man trying to find some causes to phenomenon. And the cause was a sort of a being, a killer. That was a sort of large cause, like a sort of the situation of the atmosphere, of the air, of malediction, of no. That was a killer. So he has to discover the killer. And very often the serial killer. So he quit his office, and he went to the place where you had some death. And exactly as a policeman, he made the inquiry to see what was going on and that sort. And sometime he spent there many months before trying to discover the serial killer. Exactly then in a thriller. That was, you see, science is not a point of only a laboratory. Of course, it's necessary a laboratory, but you have to go elsewhere. You have to be people. You have to be the milieu. You have to be the ecosystem, because otherwise you can't understand. Because a serial killer is comes from a network, from an ecosystem, because otherwise you haven't that sort of the gathering of all the condition in order to permit this killer to just emerge. You see, so that was fantastic to, and in each one of his research, that was the same. Who is the killer? Who is the killer, and why this killer has emerged? So that was fantastic, you see. And each time I'm trying to understand, it's exactly that. Once upon a time. And when I meet a scientist, very often they tell me, but why don't you understand me? Why don't you understand me? And I tell them, it's I don't understand, it's your fault. Because let's say that my cleverness is a good level, not very huge, but well, middle one. But my capacity to be curious is huge. So you'll never find someone more curious than I am. More clever, of course, a lot, 1,000, billion, but more clever, more curious, never. So repeat, please, Mr. Scientist.
No, it's fantastic, because all the scientists, they start the investigation with a problem and try to answer this problem like an investigator, just like Louis Pasteur going after the
and they have a sort of obligation of result.
Exactly. Yes.
Quite different from the politician.
Right.
Yeah.
You have
If
to
I
find
could
an
say
answer. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Over to you.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm glad that you brought in the question of, I like the idea of it being a thriller, but more importantly, that it reads like a thriller because it rests on the premise of being an investigation. And that investigation dovetails or aligns beautifully with your curiosity, with your nature of being curious and being a free spirit. It's only a free spirit who walks unfettered into different domains and is able to pluck all that is relevant to them to understand new routes and new ideas and and it's only when you build upon old ideas that you can recognize and maybe beget further new ideas. And this brings me to the next question, that because this is something which is a refrain in the conversation so far, is that do you think in the 21st century we need to go back, or rather have a greater need to understand the importance or the relationship between history, different academics, language, natural resources, geography, human, this whole idea, this very idea of an ecosystem doesn't necessarily restrict itself to the biological systems, but it is everything which the civilization and is contained within Earth. Do you think there is a greater need to get back into that domain, into that way of looking?
The answer is yes. The point is that life is a religious matter in a sort of, in the meaning of etymological meaning of this word, religious. Religious comes from the Latin, religare, relegere. That is to say, gather and unify. Gather and unify. That is religious. I'm not talking at all about a sort of God. I'm talking only of sort of horizontal relationships. You see? Those. So when they ask me, for instance, the religious told me, do you believe in God? Well, God is out of the question. And the point is, I don't need of God. But I'm a sort of, I am a believer, an horizontal believer. So I believe in all the relationships in our level, without any relationships to a sort of transcendency and so on and so forth. So this is absolutely clear that we need to come back to that sort of unity. Why? Because the real world is the world of unity. We, human being, we have invented the frontiers. We have no frontiers in the life. We have no frontiers in your life. In the life, you have no differences between India and Kashmir and Pakistan. We have no frontiers. Of course not. Of course not. So we have to have all that sort of connection. So this is why you need to have a sort of a general culture. You see, it's necessary to be competent in one field, of course, but that's not enough. That's not enough. Look at in medicine. Look at in medicine. We are specialists. They are specialists in, for instance, right knee or left knee, but not in the two knees. You see, only a sort of millimeter square of our body, but not the legs together. And in France, that is quite strange, because in France, general medicine, that is to say, a man in charge of the entire of your body and your health, this sort of physician is a specialist. Could you imagine when you said that? You have to be a specialist to be a generalist. So if you could define me, I am a specialist of general.
Well, that's well said, because that's one of the things that we are beginning to see less and less of. People like you are becoming a minority, whereas when we were growing up, when we were growing up, that was not the case. You came across specialists, but you came across more and more people who had more knowledge systems.
And this is exactly why you have to go outside of your country.
Exactly.
Because in your country, I see, I don't know how you could translate it in English, I am a touche-à-tout. You see? You see, I am like that. Of course not. Of course not. I told you before, I think that the truth is the interdependency.
Exactly.
Interdependency. Of course, this is that. So that is why I'm trying to gather so many knowledges. You see, that's the point. And my chance, my luck, of course, is to be able to meet so many people now, because I am not young, of course. So I'm living since, I don't know how many years. So I met a lot of people, and I met people in a lot of fields. So they can give me a lot of knowledge. They can alert me. They call me. They write to me and me. Why don't you go there? For instance, I have a lot of links with people in Bangladesh. See, and because you have the problem with the deltas, the threats about Bangladesh, about the deltas, because you have so many dams, so uphill, so it's the problem. And they told me, why don't you write a book about the growing sand scarcity? Could you imagine that? Sand scarcity, because you have to build more and more houses, and then we have less and less sand. And if you have less than sand, we have a lot of problem with the relationship between the earth and the sea, given the fact that the sea is going to grow, given the fact of the new problem of climate, you see. So yeah. Thanks to these new friends and this sort of growing cloud of new friends, I have information I think very few people have. Very few people have. And this is sort of human relationships. It's not in Wikipedia.
I think this is a great point to segue into Srini's next question. Over to you, Srini. This is perfect entry point for you.
Yeah, this is very much related to my question. Thanks, Jaya. Erik Orsenna, you say that l'arbre n'est pas séparable des fruits qu'il porte. Roughly translated, this would mean the tree and the fruits that the tree bears cannot be detached from one another. This is such a powerful statement and extremely pertinent, particularly in Indian context and elsewhere too.
I don't understand.
Yeah. You say that l'arbre n'est pas séparable des fruits qu'il porte.
Alors, oui,
oui.
C'est un peu incertain.
Voilà. Et donc, for me, this means there is a very important debate on the basic research and so-called applied research. This is a long-standing debate because there is some elitist attitude of some scientists who think that purely fundamental research is important, whereas Louis Pasteur, he himself showed us that it is possible to do basic research which has application and commercialization. The basic research, fundamental research.
Yeah, this is a fundamental question, of course. But the point is, we have to do both, of course, both, because if you stay only in fundamental, you'll have no financing, of course.
Yes.
And if you want to make money quickly, you will not have very quickly, you will lose the fundamental. And this is why in my book, I tell the story of Pasteur trying to manage research, fundamental research, and gathering a lot of money in order to create his institute. Institute one to make some medicine, to teach, and to care. That is the point. You see, you have to understand and cure and teach. that was fantastic. And this is why this sort of need for glory, Pasteur loved glory, but the glory was the only way to gather funds. And
Yes.
if you have not that sort of image, of course you have no money received from the tiny people and from the Tsar and from the Emperor of Brazil, you see? And this was in only 1 year, he gathered so many money, able to build up in Paris the Institute. So this is interesting to see that research is not out of the world for two reasons. The first one is money, and the other one is a sort of the need to explain research to other people, because otherwise you have a fantastic amount of criticism among the scientists, because there are people, you see, creating monsters and so on. And now, you see, le soupçon now, we have more and more soupçon about the knowledge. So you have to put the scientists in the day-to-day world as well. And they are not in a sort of very remote chapel, I don't know, near the God.
Yes, yes. Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's a very important point, because even today, there are quite a few people who think that only basic research is important, but you pointed out very clearly, and even today, Institut Pasteur itself has a large implication in commercialization of Pasteur vaccines and other diagnostics, etc. So yes, his principle has become.
You have another problem. You have another problem. A lot of people,
yes,
of very high value in your country, but in France as well, have been educated, and this education has been paid by the country, and then at the end of the day, they have been sort of swallowed by United States or China, and they have the benefits of the invest of the other country. And look at that for the new Nobel Prize of the two ladies of the CRISPR-Cas9. They were educated in their country, and then the Nobel went to United States. Donc you see, that point is very important, because this is the brain drain. This is the brain drain of the very well educated and at the huge price of people. And you have the problem because you have a deep tradition of knowledge in your country. And a lot of people can't go on. I used to be administrator of the École Normale Supérieure, which is the highest level in a French university. And the people, to go on their researchers, had to go to United States.
Yes.
So that's not possible.
Yes.
That's no more possible. That's why, for instance, the gathering of the strength of Europe are necessary, because otherwise you plant vegetables and the crops are getting from other people.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yes. Jaya?
Just a minute. Yeah, thanks. Thank you. No, that's very interesting, because the only novel of yours which I saw translated into English, and in the opening pages, and I'm raising this because I think in some ways your fictional work sort of enables you to explore and further the very fundamental principles that govern your journey of being a curious person. There are two quotes from the Indies Enterprise which stood out to me in the opening pages. Was that I miss scientists who could have explained the phenomenon to me, and all that week that single word, why, haunted me. Somewhere I felt that this encapsulates your philosophy. Is that, do you think so? I mean, is that at the heart of what you believe?
I can see exactly your point, that point. The question is,
Why? Why?
Why?
That single word haunted me. Why? Do you think that is at the heart of what you believe? Why? Does that govern your principles? Does that govern your...
Why? Because I think that happiness could be possible. And why not? Why not? Why not? Why not? This is, and why launch wars instead of talking? I don't know. I don't know. You see the point. I can't understand that. And in each level, I mean, in personal level and in the sort of country level, you see. So it's so pleasant and peaceful to understand and to try to share. I am very anxious of what is going on with the water, with the scarcity of water. Could you imagine then that the figures are the following? 800 million of people are living in a delta. All the deltas of the earth are threatened for two reasons, major reasons. First, the multiplication of dams. Then you have no sediments, feeding no more the deltas. And the other point is you have the sea is growing. So if you have the two together, you have less deltas and more water. So you can predict that, for instance, my dear Bangladesh, with 160 million people, will be under the sea for the half of the territory. And how could you share this necessary resources, which is water? You see the point? And this is the same with Mekong, with Laos and with China, multiplying the dam without any discussion with all the authority of the Mekong. Same with the Colorado and Mississippi, same with and so on and so forth. So you see, this is why what is at stake. And another point of high tension is the River Nile, with the relationships between Egypt and Ethiopia. The point is, from the older time, Egypt had the monopoly, the quasi-monopoly of the major port of Nile, the Blue Nile. But now, Ethiopia is more crowded than Egypt. You see, you have 95,000 people, million people in Egypt, and you are more than 100 million people in Ethiopia. But if you are Egypt, pay attention to launch your jet to destroy the dam in Ethiopia, because Ethiopia is the ally of China. You see, this is the sort of thing. For instance, this geopolitics of water, geopolitics of a river, I give on that subject a lot of lessons in the war school in Paris with the military forces. You see, because this is one of the main tension already, and of course, even more in the future. You see that. So why? To prevent war, to prevent barbarity, if we have a chance, Same with the sort of what's going on with the climate. You see. Donc why? Try to give chance to reason, because give chance to reason is give chance to happiness. And the point is, it's not the earth to be saved, because our planet will go on, but without us. We have to be saved, not the planet. Not the planet, of course. The planet didn't pay no attention to that. They will go on. Our life, this is our life that is to be saved.
That's a very interesting point that you make in terms of science and life and all, because I think that leads directly into Srini's next question. It's a perfect point.
Yeah.
It's really perfect.
I don't know how you did that, but
we should have, Jaya, we should have a sort of a radio program together.
we should do that.
Yeah, we should. Yeah,
So
like that.
we ask Christine, we launch a radio. We launch a radio with Jaya and with Srini. Christine, launch that. This is an historic meeting.
Yes.
We are going to earn a lot of money.
Well.
Erik Orsenna, you say that the planet will be there, but we will not be there.
Of course,
Okay.
that's the point. That's the point. That's the point.
My next question.
You see, when I'm listening to NGO saying save the planet, but the planet is completely out of the battle.
No, but
Completely out of the battle. That's not the problem of the planet. This is our
Yes.
planet, and we are not. The solution exists, and this is our planet. And not when I say a lot of people. Gathering a lot of money pour move on in another planet after having destroyed our planet. For instance, exchange a sort of a very bare sort of a piece of a rock very long away instead of our fantastic planet. The point is, when I write about our planet, I have two points, two aims. First is to make it wonderful, to repeat how wonderful is our planet, our chance we have to have that sort of planet. And the other point is to alert, of course, pay attention, this is frail, we are going to destroy it. Because if you say only the second point, we say, why? It's too late. But if you say only it's wonderful, so you are a sort of bisounours.
Okay. So now my question is slightly more difficult for you, because we in India, there is, just like your title of the book, La vie, mort et la vie encore. This brings to a concept which is very prevalent in India, which is reincarnation. Okay, meaning we come back. You said the planet is over, we are not there, but we are going to come back. And this also brings me, you understand the concept of reincarnation, Eric, bien entendu.
Yes. But
the question is, this relates to one of the questions that you raise in the book again, where Pasteur himself probably asked this many times, Dieu existe-t-il? Does God exist? You see, this is also a never-ending debate. This becomes even more challenging when a scientist like Pasteur is a croyant or a believer. So how do you place Louis Pasteur and his croyance?
Pasteur said he was a believer. He said he believed in God, but I don't know who was his God. And if you ask people believing in God, when you ask, but who is God for you? The answer is quite different. And I don't know who is their God, for instance. So I have not this problem because I don't believe in God. So my God is life. My God is horizontal. My God is not in the sky with a white bird. No, I don't think so. And I am much more with your Oriental way of thinking. For instance, I feel more Shintoist than Catholic. You see? And if you give a sort of identity of the different elements of nature, you have to respect nature first. But this could cut the nature between parts independent. I don't think so. So you have to complete that by a sort of huge way of circulating. So I'm not absolutely against reincarnation. I don't know who will be a reincarnation, but of course, I'll be a reincarnation. For instance, if in 200 years, someone read a little book of mine, it will, one tiny part of me will be reincarnation.
Yeah.
I don't give a damn to be Erik Orsenna reincarnation, as beautiful as I am. No, of course not. But one part of me, one part of you, one part of Jaya, one part of Christine, of course will be. This is the lesson of the river. The lesson of the river. You go to the sea, and then you go to the sky, and then you have, and then you have the wind, and then you have you see the la pluie and so on and so on. You see, my first book about science was about current. And I study the current called Gulf Stream. And as an economist, I was educated in the truth of lines. As a human being, I am now educated in the truth of circle. So the circle is the main figure of the truth, not the line. Like interdependency is much more near the truth than frontier.
Oh, okay. That, can I say one thing? That I think that's
Of course you can. Yes, sir.
No, I think that's a very interesting point that you have raised, because it makes me wonder then, what exactly is it that you yourself seek in a biography? Forget writing one. What is it that you seek? Is it actually, you know, how traditional biographies are written, birth to death, or is it much more? What is it that you want? What is it that you look for?
It's quite clear. I am more and more fascinating by a certain job, which is to live. The job to live. And we had an Italian writer called that the métier de vivre. Le métier de vivre. And I'm writing to understand from the basis of very huge characters, to see how did they succeed to live. For instance, Pasteur, how can a man can discover? Beaumarchais, how can a man can be free and have so many lives? And now I am writing about Beethoven. How can a man could fight all his life to find fraternity, and he has absolutely no gift to be able to have links with people, women, friends, children, and so on and so forth. And this fraternity came from music, giving the fact he was dumb since he was 28. Look, how can you compose being dumb? How do you do that? You see, that sort of thing. So, in fact, a biography is a sort of like a McGrath. How can you do? How do you do that?
Yeah.
How do you do that in sort of, and they are not, you see, we have many sort of biographies. I used to, I wrote a thesis. I know what is to put a lot of notes under the end of each page and so on and so forth. It's not the same. For instance, I wrote another biography about a man who was the gardener of Louis XIV. And my question was he happy? Was he happy? And of course he was happy because this man, the king, ordered him the main garden of his life. Because if he had not met this king, he would only had been a designer, but not a gardener. You see, that sort of thing. So Beethoven is fantastic. Could you imagine at 28, he became dumb. And from this time, he was a real creator, as if he was free because he was unable to listen, nothing. Donc he was free to invent. Fantastic, fantastic. And what was the price for that? You see, that is exactly that sort of thing. I am fascinating by human being. Fascinating by human being. You see, when I can stand in a cafe when we are authorized to send to a cafe and to look at people walking, and I can imagine what are the life of all the walking people. And this is exactly why I am a novelist, because I don't pay attention to myself. I would be so happy, for instance, if Jaya would told me her secret life, for instance.
For instance, I'm so sorry. I do apologize for interrupting you. I know that Jaya and Srini, you have a lot of questions, but it's already almost 8 o'clock. I just suggest a small break to listen to Erik to read an abstract.
Alors, je vais aller le chercher. Je vais aller le chercher. Juste à côté.
Please, an abstract of the biography, and also to invite his translator, Dr. Vengada Soupraya Nayagar, to read in Tamil, just to have a break and come back to your question if you agree.
Je lis. Très bien. Alors, Victor Hugo, que Pasteur n'aimait pas, a écrit L'homme qui rit. D'après nos informations, Pasteur ne riait jamais. Pourquoi? Comment vivre sans jamais rire? Peut-être une explication, c'est que rire, c'est se détendre. Mais est-il acceptable de se détendre quand on se doit d'être sans cesse tendu vers son but? De même que, je cite Pasteur, un jour sans travail est un jour volé. Je recite Pasteur, de même je cite Pasteur, il n'y a que le travail qui amuse. De même, une seconde de rire était pour Pasteur autant d'énergie détournée de l'essentiel. Vous me direz, on peut ricaner de ses adversaires, mais Pasteur ne ricanait pas de ses adversaires. Il démontrait plutôt leur inconsistance. Vous me direz aussi, on peut rire de soi, mais certains répondront, pour progresser vers l'inconnu, il est mieux de ne pas douter. Mais Pasteur n'arrêtait pas de passer au crible ses hypothèses et ses méthodes. Douter de ses idées, c'est encore de la confiance en soi. C'est même la preuve la plus solide de cette confiance. Celui qui ne supporte pas d'avoir tort s'efforce de cacher ses fragilités. Mais autre hypothèse que je préfère, on dit volontiers que le rire est contagieux. Voilà pourquoi, sans doute, Pasteur ne riait jamais.
Thank you so much, Erik. Maybe Dr. Nayagar, if you want to read in Tamil.
Oui. Merci, monsieur. Je vais lire la traduction de ce chapitre. சிரிக்காமல் இருந்தது பற்றி. பஸ்தருக்கு பிடிக்காத விக்டர் யுகோ சிரிக்கும் மனிதன் என்னும் நூலை எழுதியுள்ளார். நமக்கு கிடைத்துள்ள தகவலின்படி பஸ்தர் சிரித்ததே இல்லை. ஏன் சிரிக்காமல் இப்படி வாழ்வது? ஏனெனில் சிரிப்பது என்பது பதற்றத்தை தவிர்ப்பது. ஆனால் நம் இலக்கை நோக்கி தொடர்ந்து பதற்றத்தோடு இருக்க வேண்டிய நாம் அதை தவிர்த்து இளைப்பாறுவது என்பது ஏற்றுக்கொள்ளக்கூடியதா? அதே போல வேலை இல்லாத ஒரு நாள், களவாடப்பட்ட நாள் அல்லது வேலை மட்டுமே மகிழ்ச்சி அளிக்கக்கூடியதாகும். இவைதான் பஸ்தருக்கு பிடித்தமான இரு முழக்கங்களாகும். ஒரு கணம் சிரிப்பது என்பது குறிக்கோளை எட்ட செலவிடப்படும் ஆற்றலை பெருமளவு திசை திருப்பிவிடக்கூடியதாகும். நம் எதிரிகளை கண்டு சிரிக்கலாமே என நீங்கள் கூறலாம். அவர்களை கண்டு பஸ்தர் நகைத்ததில்லை. அவர்களது செயல்பாட்டில் நீடித்த தன்மை இல்லாததை அவர் சுட்டிக்காட்டினார். தன்னை குறித்து சிரிக்கலாமே என்று கூட நீங்கள் கூறலாம். அறியாத ஒன்றை நோக்கி முன்னேறும் போது சந்தேகத்திற்கு இடம் தரக்கூடாது என சிலர் கூறலாம். ஆனால் பஸ்தர் தமது ஊகங்கள், செயல்முறைகள் ஆகியவற்றை தொடர்ந்து ஆய்வுக்கு உட்படுத்தி வந்தார். தன் கருத்துக்களை சந்தேகப்படுவது என்றால் அதுவும் தன்னம்பிக்கை தான். இந்த நம்பிக்கையின் மிக உறுதியான அத்தாட்சியே அதுதான். தம் செயல் தவறாக முடிய நேர்வதை தாங்கிக் கொள்ள முடியாதவன் தான் தன் பலவீனங்களை மறைக்க முயல்வார். மேலும் ஒரு கருத்து இருந்தது, சிரிப்பு என்பது தொற்றக்கூடியது என எல்லோரும் கூற முன் வருவார்கள். பஸ்தர் ஒருபோதும் சிரிக்காததற்கு இதுதான் காரணம். நன்றி.
Je voudrais remercier le traducteur parce que il se trouve que quand j'ai été conseiller culturel du président de la République François Mitterrand, un jour j'étais dans une sorte de réunion des traducteurs européens et j'ai demandé au directeur de cabinet du ministre de la Culture s'il y avait un grand prix de la traduction. Il m'a dit non, c'est-à-dire de traduction en français des langues étrangères. Il m'a dit non. J'ai dit, alors écoute, tu vas à la tribune et tu annonces que François Mitterrand a décidé de créer un grand prix de la traduction. Il m'a dit, mais il n'a pas décidé. Il a dit non, mais c'est moi qui viens de le décider. Et c'est une des rares fois où j'ai été heureux d'avoir du pouvoir parce qu'il n'a pas osé dire non. Et c'est grâce à moi, grâce à ça, qu'un grand prix national de la traduction a été créé. Donc je voudrais vous saluer parce que vous êtes des passeurs. Sans nous, sans vous, nous serons rien, nous serions simplement dans un petit pays. Et quand je vois ma bibliothèque, je m'aperçois que les 3/4 me sont venus grâce à des traducteurs. Donc votre générosité est infinie parce que, et ça je dis ça aux éditeurs, vous pourriez être payé mieux parce qu'en général vous êtes peu payé. Donc voilà, j'en profite pour dire ce message de gratitude infinie parce que c'est grâce à vous que nous, le monde arrive chez nous. Autrement, nous serions obligés de rester concentrés dans notre pauvre petit monde. Donc, quand j'ai appris que j'avais un traducteur tamoul, alors je peux vous dire que dans ma famille, notamment mes enfants, ils me respectent, alors qu'avant, ils ne savaient pas. Mais dès qu'ils commencent à bouger un peu, je leur dis, c'est pas toi qui es un traducteur tamoul. Donc, monsieur le tamoul, merci.
Merci, monsieur, c'est très gentil. Je suis vraiment touché. Hein? Je suis vraiment honoré de vos mots gentils. Et comme vous avez déjà signalé que... Okay. Excuse, je m'excuse. You have already mentioned that you have more secrets to share with us. I am ready to, I would like to share those secrets to my Tamil readers with your permission, and with the help of course, our habitual Institut Français and our publisher. Thank you, sir. We welcome you to Pondicherry soon.
Thank you. And I wrote a novel about the story of a publisher, and one a tiny island where I used to live at that time. And this publisher tried to translate a book from Nabokov, Ada. And this book was really difficult to translate. Donc a lot of people in the island helped the translator in order to finish the translation at time, because the publisher was only to torture the translator, and you have to increase your speed. So I spent, and this book is called Two Summers, and that be translated in German and in Spanish as well. What is quite strange is that you have some countries which translate a lot. A lot of my books are translated in Chinese, some in Vietnamese. Most of my books are translated in Korean, and quite few in English. Quite strange. And a lot in Hungarian. It's quite strange. You start to. It depends. Of course, it depends of the will and the interest of the translator or of the publisher. And it's so you see, it's so moving, saying that in other part of the world, someone is just reading what you have written about 2 years before. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Erik and your translator. I wanted to add two things before coming back to the question and maybe the question of the audience. What I wanted to pointing out is to say that the French embassy created the Romain Rolland Prize for Translation in India, okay, 3 years ago. So every year we have a winner. The second thing is that we founded a publisher for your book, The Paper Road. So, and the third good news is that we invite you next year, and I hope that the first translation of The Paper Road in Hindi and Bengali will start a series of translation of your work.
Thank you, Christine.
Included in English.
Thank you, Christine. Of course, you have to know that with Christine you have some links, and this links is water, because she's one of the world expert of water, world expert in the history of big rivers. And the first time I met her, that was about her book, a fantastic book with a nice photo about big river. Donc, she's not only a very high civil servant, but she's the author as well.
No, but the author is you, so we come back to you, and we come back to maybe to the question of the audience. Is there, or I don't know, Srini, if you wanted to ask one more, and Jaya also one more, because I know that you have
one last question. Yeah. One
yes.
last question. One last question, at least one question, but maybe others, if there is time. See, one of the very, very well-known phrases from Louis Pasteur is about hasard ne sourit que aux esprits préparés. In English, it would be fortune or luck favors the prepared mind. How important. Every scientist, one day or the other, is confronted with this, because even if you are a perfect scientist and everything is working according to the plan, still there is a matter of luck. Sometimes it is very important. And you also speak of serendipity in your book. And so tell us what you think about this hazard or luck.
Yes, I do like this word and this concept of serendipity, because if you're not searching, yes, you'll never discover anything. Yes. But very often when you search A, you will discover B. And this is quite strange. And in another way, I play piano, but I'm not a fantastic ear. And my friend musician listen much more than I can hear. But when words are concerned, I listen and hear much more than they do. And very often I pay attention to a sentence and I say, that could be a poem. That could be a fantastic title. That is the answer of your question you asked about 2 hours ago. And people did not pay attention to this. So you see, you have to be in sort, as we say in France, en éveil permanent. You have to be like that, you see, to be ready to receive. And so many people are not ready to receive. And of course, you have two ways to be generous. The first one is to give. The other one, and sometimes more difficult, is to accept to receive.
Nice, nicely put.
Jaya, last question from you, and it's already 8 o'clock, so I think.
No, I don't think I have any more questions to ask, except for maybe, I mean, that this is just peripheral. That what is it that you prefer reading in today? Is it digital or print? Because you are a man of literature and you also travel. So what is your preferred format? And also because I think you were responsible for launching an ebook in France called SciBook, is it? So which is your preference?
The problem with me, and this is a problem which makes my life very rich but quite difficult, is that I don't know exactly how to prefer and why to prefer. You see, that's the point. That's the point. And that's the reason why I can't believe in only one God, because I would have to prefer one God. And I don't like to prefer, because I like too many things. You see, that is one of the problems of my marriages, if you could guess. You see, that's the point. So I do like read the paper. I do like paper, but the point is, I hate being committed to choose between traveling and reading. And with the digital, I can travel and going on reading. You see, and especially when I'm sailing. And I had the idea to join this startup of electronic book when going on a tiny boat to Antarctica. And I said to myself, if I had that sort of iPad, I could have all the literature of the world. And without that, I was only authorized to have only 2 books. So you see, I'm not against modernity. You have to choose and to be free, always free, always free, always free of using or not using modernity. So why not next city, but not next city each night, for instance.
Okay, that's a very good ending to the conversation.
That's it. And when do you come to France?
Whenever this pandemic ends and we can travel.
Let's Christine organize.
Yeah.
Huh? You receive the prize, Romain Roland, and you come to France.
We plan to invite Jaya for next year, but just because already 8 o'clock, but we have, I would like to give to the audience the last question. And one question is from Ajit Khanna. Erik Orsenna, are you Marxist? You speak a lot about humanism and economy. So are you Marxist?
The point is, Marxist is a fantastic writer having described the society. The point is, I am more Marxist than Soviet. You see the point? So I was very struck by this his explanation of the situation. But the problem is, if you have the planification, you have some problem, and if you have the market, you have some problem as well on the other side. That is to say, I am what we call social democrat. That is to say, before distribute, you have to produce. And now you have to produce with respect to the value product. So this is the situation. But my main threats now are, as I tell you before, 2 points. First, restore our confidence in the knowledge. And the other point is make democracy consistent with long-term choice. Because nowadays, with the social network, it's very difficult to give to democracy the value of long-term, the long run. And if you have a vision, you haven't a vision, then you react always and you don't act. So this is I was talking with our French Minister for Agricultural Affairs this morning, and we talk about that. Confidence in the knowledge and giving way to long run in our democracy, because our democracy is in more and more taken in a stage by the very short run. Thank you.
Thank you again, Erik. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jaya, Srini.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Christine.
Thank you so much.
And read the book of Christine. Read the book of Christine. Read the book of Christine. So the next time I present the book of Christine.
Yes.
See you, Jaya. See you, Jaya.
Yes, see you. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Professor. And translator, and publisher. Well, I kiss you, my publisher.
Thanks.
See you. Thank you. Thank you, Christine. Thank you. Bye. And see you as soon as we can.
Thanks, Jaya.
Bye.
Thanks. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for the event, for arranging this event.